There is no shortage of advice about happiness. Bookstores are full of it. Podcasts claim to have the answer. Influencers post daily tips and mantras. Everywhere we look, someone is offering a new way to feel better, to be more fulfilled, to finally be happy. But if all these methods actually worked, wouldn't we notice by now? Wouldn't we be living in a much more content world? Instead, we keep searching, one method after another, one insight after the next. It starts to feel like a cycle we cannot break out of, like we are always almost there, but never quite. Something about it does not add up. We have built a whole story around happiness. The plot goes like this: get the job, find the partner, buy the house, and you will be fulfilled. It sounds neat and clear, but people who have checked off these boxes often say something else. The good feeling shows up, sure. There is relief, maybe even joy, but it fades. And in its place comes something more confusing, a sense that something is still missing. This cycle plays out again and again. We reach goals that were supposed to change everything, but once the glow wears off, we feel uneasy, even lost. We start wondering, did we make the wrong choices? Or have we misunderstood what lasting contentment really needs? Maybe we inherited the wrong idea of what happiness actually is. That is what we are going to explore. We will look at how the brain works when it comes to pleasure and why constant stimulation can leave us empty. We will go back to older ways of thinking, how ancient philosophers approached the idea of a good life, often with more depth than today's wellness trends. We'll also compare how other cultures think about happiness and ask if chasing it might actually stop us from feeling it. We need to slow down and ask a basic question, one we usually skip right over. What do we even mean by happiness? Modern psychology gives us a good starting point. It says there are two very different kinds of well-being: hedonic and eudaimonic. Hedonic happiness is the kind most of us chase without thinking. It's about feeling good, comfort, pleasure, and quick rewards, eating a great meal, watching a show you love, getting likes on a post. These moments are real and enjoyable, but they fade fast. That's their nature. The joy spikes, then disappears. And soon enough, we're looking for the next hit. That loop is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. You run and run, chasing pleasure, but never really get anywhere lasting. Eudaimonic happiness works differently. It's about meaning. It comes from doing things that reflect your values, even when they're hard. Creating something, helping someone, growing in your work or in yourself, sticking to what you believe in. These things might not feel good in the moment, but they bring a kind of satisfaction that sticks around. It's a slow burn, not a quick hit. Aristotle got to this over 2,000 years ago. He called it eudaimonia, which means something like human flourishing. He said pleasure has its place, but the real path to contentment is becoming the best version of yourself. You can feel this difference clearly in your own life. Think about a lazy weekend spent doing easy things, watching, scrolling, eating. It feels nice at first, but often ends with a strange emptiness. Now think about a weekend where you did something that mattered to you, learning something new, working on a project, spending real time with someone you care about. It probably took more effort, but left you feeling more grounded, more whole. The problem is that our world is set up to push hedonic happiness on us. Fast pleasure is easy to sell. It's always nearby. Meanwhile, eudaimonic happiness takes time, focus, and energy, things that are harder to protect in modern life. But here's what matters most. Studies keep showing that people who build their lives around meaning, not just pleasure, are more satisfied overall. They're more resilient. Even when life is not easy, they tend to feel more complete. This brings us to a key question. When we say we want to be happy, what are we really asking for? Do we want a mood boost or a life that feels worth living? That difference matters, because the path to quick pleasure and the path to deep meaning are not the same, And mixing them up may be one reason we keep feeling like happiness is just out of reach. With this framework in place, we can now look at how the brain drives our behavior and why it often works against our long-term goals, even when we know better. Happiness is a feeling, but it also has a biological foundation. What we call joy or satisfaction maps onto specific brain activity and the release of certain chemicals. These systems help explain why our moods shift, why we act impulsively, and why we can get stuck in habits that leave us unfulfilled. The brain's reward system runs mostly on a few key chemicals, and each plays a different role. Take dopamine. It's often misunderstood as the chemical that makes us feel happy. In truth, dopamine is more about wanting than liking. It kicks in when we expect something rewarding, not when we actually get it. That's why the moment before opening a message can feel more exciting than the message itself. Dopamine is what drives us to act, to chase, to repeat. This worked well for survival, but in a world of endless notifications and entertainment, it can create compulsive loops, scrolling, clicking, checking again and again. Serotonin is different. It helps keep our mood steady. It supports feelings of peace, stability, and emotional balance. Low serotonin levels are linked to anxiety and depression. What affects serotonin most are things we often overlook: sleep, light, movement. It's no surprise that poor sleep or staying indoors too long can shift our mood so strongly. Endorphins are the body's painkillers. They show up during exercise, laughter, and sometimes when we eat certain foods. They help us feel good and block discomfort, but they're more about balance than pleasure, the body's way of managing stress, not chasing joy. Oxytocin is about connection. It's released through touch, eye contact, and close conversations. This is the reason deep relationships feel grounding. It's also why loneliness hits so hard. We are wired to connect, not just to survive, but to feel well. All of this runs on an operating system built for survival, not happiness. Our brains are designed to spot danger fast, conserve energy, and grab rewards when they appear. That's why it's easier to binge a show than start a project, or why one rude comment sticks with us longer than 5 kind ones. It's by design, but it does create problems in a world where threats are often abstract and rewards are constant. Luckily, our brains are flexible. Through neuroplasticity, we can rewire how we respond. The more we act a certain way, the more our brain strengthens those pathways. If we keep turning to quick hits, sugar, scrolling, distraction, those habits become automatic. But if we start choosing effortful, meaningful actions, creating, learning, helping, that wiring gets stronger too. This change doesn't happen fast. That's the hardest part. Quick rewards come with instant feedback. A like, a snack, a laugh, they deliver right away. But the rewards of growth, purpose, and connection build slowly. They ask for patience, and that makes them easier to skip or give up on. The takeaway is simple but hard. Our brains will follow the patterns we give them, and while we can't control every chemical surge or impulse, we can influence the system over time. With small, repeated choices, we can shift from seeking momentary highs to building something steadier, deeper, and more lasting. Understanding how the brain works helps explain why so much modern happiness advice misses the mark. Despite living in an age of comfort, entertainment, and ease, many people still feel uneasy, unfulfilled, or numb. This disconnect suggests that the way we think about happiness may not line up with how our brains are actually wired to find lasting well-being. One of the biggest mistakes we make is confusing pleasure with meaning. The hedonic treadmill is a clear example of this. We get what we want, a new job, a new car, a burst of praise, and we feel good. But that feeling fades. The brain adjusts, and what once thrilled us becomes the new normal. What helped our ancestors stay alert and motivated now traps us in a loop, always chasing, rarely satisfied. Researchers Philip Brickman and Donald Campbell first named this cycle in the 1970s. Since then, studies have shown that people often return to their usual level of happiness after big life events, whether good or bad. Even lottery winners and people recovering from major accidents tend to level out emotionally within a year or two. Yet we keep reaching for external things, money, status, likes, thinking they will bring lasting joy. Our culture feeds this mistake. We are told to always strive for more, to treat ourselves, to level up. And while pleasure and success are not wrong, we often confuse them for something deeper. The more we mistake short-term highs for real happiness, the more restless we become.
Comparison only makes this worse. We measure ourselves not by our own standards, but by what we see others doing. And thanks to social media, our peer group now includes nearly everyone. We compare our private struggles to others' highlight reels. The result is what psychologists call relative deprivation, feeling like we are falling behind even when we are doing just fine. And here's the paradox. The more we chase happiness directly, the harder it is to feel it. Paying too much attention to our emotional state makes us notice when we are not happy, which only fuels frustration. Like trying to fall asleep by trying harder, the pursuit itself gets in the way. The real issue is that we define happiness incorrectly. We confuse stimulation with fulfillment. We think comfort equals contentment. We look for quick highs instead of steady satisfaction. But real well-being tends to be slow, quiet, and built over time, through meaningful work, deep relationships, growth, and even boredom that leads to reflection. Instead of asking, "How do I feel right now?" a better question might be, "What am I building?" That shift in focus, from emotion to purpose, has been at the core of philosophical thinking for centuries. Take Aristotle. His idea of happiness, or eudaimonia, was not about feeling good. It was about living well. He believed happiness came from realizing our potential and practicing virtues like courage, honesty, self-control, and wisdom. In his view, happiness was not a mood. It was a way of living. It showed up in how we act, not just how we feel. That idea runs counter to today's focus on comfort and self-care. Aristotle would likely ask not, "Are you relaxed?" but, "Are you becoming who you are meant to be?" The Stoics made a similar point. Thinkers like Marcus Aurelius and Epicurus said that suffering comes from trying to control what we cannot. Their advice: focus on what is up to you, your choices, your values, your effort. Let go of what is not. This approach teaches calm in the face of chaos. It is about holding your ground when life throws things you cannot change. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled the Roman Empire, used his personal writings to train himself in this mindset. His journals are filled with reminders to stay centered, to accept hardship, and to keep acting with integrity, lessons that shaped modern therapy and mindfulness practices. Then there's Epicurus. People often think he promoted indulgence, but that's a misunderstanding. He actually taught that peace comes from simplicity. He believed joy came from reducing pain, both physical and emotional, and from living with modesty, friendship, and thoughtful conversation. He warned that most suffering comes from wanting too much and expecting too much, and in that way he saw clearly what we are only now starting to rediscover, that less really can be more. Each of these traditions offers a path out of the confusion we find ourselves in. They remind us that happiness is something we build through the way we live each day. Buddhist philosophy adds a clear voice to this discussion by focusing on suffering and attachment. According to the Buddha, the root of our dissatisfaction is craving, our constant urge for things to be different than they are. This craving shows up as restlessness, frustration, or the belief that we are always one step away from being truly happy. The antidote is about how to change the way we relate to the perceived inadequacies or shortcomings of life. Mindfulness, which comes from these teachings, trains us to accept the present moment and respond with clarity instead of reactivity. Today, these same practices are used in therapy and neuroscience research because they help calm the mind and support emotional balance. Existentialist thinkers, Kierkegaard, Nietzsche, Sartre, offer another route. They saw life as uncertain, sometimes even absurd, but instead of giving up on meaning, they insisted that we must create it ourselves. Tips on how to be happy may have been handed down to us, but happiness is also something we ourselves build by making conscious choices and by standing behind our own values, even in the face of mortality or doubt. In a world with no guaranteed purpose, the responsibility to live fully becomes even more personal. Despite their differences, these traditions agree on one thing. Real happiness is based almost entirely upon how we live, how we think, act, and face what life throws at us. This is what modern happiness culture often misses. We want the results without the work, the feeling without the process, the final destination without the daily effort it takes to get there. Ancient philosophy reminds us that happiness is a practiced virtue. It comes from showing up with patience, honesty, and responsibility over time. Looking at different cultures makes the picture even richer. What counts as a good life is not the same everywhere. Culture shapes how we define and chase happiness. In the United States, happiness is often tied to individual success. You're supposed to chase your dreams, stand out, and achieve. That can be freeing, but it can also create pressure to always perform and prove yourself, even when it takes a toll. In Japan, the focus is often on harmony, duty, and fitting into your role in the group. Happiness comes from belonging, not from standing apart. Quiet satisfaction is often more valued than loud excitement. In Scandinavian countries like Denmark, approach happiness through balance. These societies prioritize social trust, security, and equality. People are not pushed to always be the best, they're supported in simply being okay. That removes fear and creates room to live more freely. Bhutan goes even further. Instead of measuring success with money alone, it tracks gross national happiness. The country looks at mental health, nature, community, and good leadership alongside economics. This model shows that happiness can be a shared value, even a policy choice. These differences raise a powerful question. Are we living the life we actually want, or just the one our culture told us to want? Realizing how deeply our surroundings shape our desires can help us step back and make more honest choices. At this point, it helps to ask, what actually works across people and places? Psychology offers some answers. The Harvard study of adult development, one of the longest studies on happiness, makes it clear. Relationships matter most. Strong connections lead not just to more joy, but to longer lives, better health, and sharper minds. Meaningful relationships, more than money or fame, are the backbone of a good life. Other research backs this up. Gratitude practices help shift focus from what is lacking to what is already good. People who regularly reflect on things they appreciate tend to feel more optimistic and sleep better. Physical movement is also key. Exercise supports mood through many channels: endorphins, brain chemistry, better rest, and even a stronger sense of self. Purpose matters too. Feeling like what you do has meaning, even in small ways, makes life more satisfying. This doesn't require a big mission. Helping a neighbor, mentoring someone, or caring for a loved one can all bring purpose. Mindfulness has shown up again and again in studies. Regular practice reduces stress and helps people respond to life with more flexibility. It strengthens our ability to stay steady in the face of strong emotions, helping us move through life with more intention. Acts of kindness help as well. Helping others often boosts the giver's mood just as much as the recipient's. Giving, it turns out, is good for everyone. The common thread? Happiness is a pattern. It grows from repeated actions and habits that slowly change how we see and live in the world. Martin Seligman's PERMA model brings all of this together: positive emotion, engagement, relationships, meaning, and accomplishment. The idea is that lasting happiness doesn't come from chasing one thing, but from finding balance across several. Feeling joy matters. So does getting lost in a task, loving others, doing things that feel meaningful, and setting and reaching goals. Each piece adds something important, and different people might need more of one than another. Therapies like cognitive behavioral therapy also help by addressing how we think. Many of us fall into patterns of distorted thinking, like assuming the worst, blaming ourselves unfairly, or thinking in extremes. CBT helps people catch these patterns and replace them with more accurate and helpful thoughts. But no real conversation about happiness can't leave out difficulty. The idea that we can build a life free of pain is both false and harmful. When we try to dodge every discomfort, we often end up more anxious, more fragile, and less equipped to deal with life. True happiness includes the hard parts: stress, sadness, struggle. Happiness is about building something steady enough to carry them, something strong enough to hold it all in the name of peace.